Hello, everyone. You want to say hello? Savannah?
Hi.
Hi. She's hi. This is, what's it called?
Girl, please.
Girl, please, with Savannah and Phoebes. But we're just going to say
Yeah.
girl, please most of the time because it sounds a little cheesy altogether. But anyway,
It's really
because it
catchy,
rhymes.
though.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day. I was like, holy smokes, I really am a genius.
Yep, all your
All
idea.
right, so what's today's topic going to be, Savannah?
It's the top myths about homeschooling.
It's going to be good. I'm just going to say it.
And a lot of these are honestly really ridiculous, to be quite honest. It's like it's the 21st century. Do people really still think this? Probably. But
I know, right? I feel like a lot of people have switched to homeschooling.
in the
Especially-
last year and a half to 2
Yeah.
years, definitely.
Yes, because, yeah. Anyway.
Because it's a mess outside.
Yes.
Okay, so we both have a couple different lists here. We both looked up like top 10 myths or misconceptions about homeschooling.
Yeah.
So we both have a different list.
And
I
a lot
guess-
of these I have heard, like,
Definitely.
personally. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. And so these are for sure, like, true, to be honest.
things that we have heard from
But
people's
some
mouths.
of them I haven't heard. So, you want to start us off, Savannah?
Okay. Well, let's just go with the number one thing that most people tend to think about homeschoolers, and that homeschoolers are like, really, seriously, you're so dumb. That homeschoolers don't socialize. Like, oh dear, think of the children. However will they know how to communicate with people if they're not in public school? They never
Right.
talk with anyone else ever unless they're in public school.
The one I says they're social outcasts. Like, honestly, what is that?
They don't know any people. They don't talk with anybody else. They have no friends. They have no lives. There's nothing but the school.
They're
nothing
lonely.
but homeschooling.
They're nothing but lonely. All they do in their lives is school and nothing, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's like they think that you're just trapped in the house or something, and that you never see anyone else, that you never crack a blind or something. It's
I
ridiculous.
have been homeschooled my whole entire life, and I'm almost through with high school. And most of the time, I'm sick of socializing. To be honest, I'm like, leave me alone, you know? So yeah, that's just one that I just.
I mean, I was homeschooled all the way through high school from the third grade all the way through high school. I've been homeschooled, and before that, I was in a private Christian school, and honestly, I didn't really notice that much of a difference. The only reason why you might struggle with making friends or socializing is if you have a bad parent who doesn't take you out to the park or
Honestly.
to group activities or
Yeah.
to go places or to meet friends. Like, if your parents don't have friends, then they don't have kids, then okay, fine. But it's just weird to think about that people really think that you don't go out and see anybody, like, ever.
like
Like,
never.
you can't communicate. They're so
Yeah.
worried, like, oh, well, how are they going to know how to communicate with people? Well, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of homeschoolers tend to be able to communicate very well with a lot of different people, not just kids their own age. It's like they can talk with just about anybody, about anything, in
Yeah.
any way.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you can be, you know, social outcast in public school or private school as well.
Exactly.
You know, it's all based on the person, you know. Because, yeah, you can be a, quote, outcast with homeschooling, but you can also be very much of one in public school or private school. Like I said, it really just depends on the person and people's personalities, you know. So that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, another one says homeschoolers play all day.
Oh, I have that
I
one too.
wish.
Like,
I
they
really-
just play video games all day. No, not if you have the right
Nay.
parent. Again,
Nay.
it comes down to the parent.
Oh my gosh.
That's just ridiculous. They just, like, it's just so stupid to think about. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I would not have been allowed to get away with that as a kid. Absolutely not.
This thing right under that assumption, it says, while it's true that homeschooling often leaves more time for a child to play, and be a kid. It's a massive mistake to assume that homeschooled children simply spend every day at play. Most homeschoolers work on schoolwork on a strict schedule, with breaks spent doing necessary household chores, which is actually really true.
Very
to be
true,
honest.
at least for our family.
Our family's true.
And for all the other families, because we've known several families because we were part of a homeschool group in our local area. And that was true of pretty much any family that we knew that had at least one child you have to have at least one child homeschool that had any kids homeschooling. There was responsibilities around the house too. It wasn't just, they're just doing whatever the kids just doing whatever they want. And I think that notion of just playing all day or playing video games all day comes from this idea of like unschooling, which is where the parent basically lets the kid navigate their way through learning in whatever the kid finds an interest in, like say it's frogs. Okay, well, you can incorporate a lot of science in that, like biology. You could, you basically take a subject and incorporate all things around that subject that the child's interested at the time.
Yeah.
So it is very loose, that type of homeschooling is.
And I know people that
Do their school in the evening. Like people my
Mm-hmm.
age.
they have a job in the day, and then they come back in the evening when they get off and do school then, which is fine, you know.
Exactly.
They're homeschooled, obviously.
Like, that's the beauty of it.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like they have a flexible schedule, but you still get it done, you know.
Like, we've known kids who, like, worked a lot with horses or relatives with horses or just doing different things where they'd be out, like, almost all day long. And they were earning, like, or their own form of, like, a small business or something.
Yeah.
And they'd be working all day long, doing stuff, and then they just do their basic schoolwork at night.
And what we have done, I keep saying okay. What we have done, and what we still do, is like with our fall breaks or whatever, we will do our fall breaks, vacations, or spring break vacation at a different week than everyone else. Because if you go, because let me tell you, if you go, which most students probably know, if you go to vacation on one of those weeks, fall break, spring break, whatever break it may be, that place probably really busy, okay?
Christmas
so
break, everything.
we
Oh
just
my
take
gosh.
A different week and take a break then and go somewhere because everyone's
still at school.
Exactly, we go in
so
the
it's
off
less
season.
busy, you know. So then we just keep working on your average, whatever you call it, your everyday, what do you call it? Just everyone else's fall break or spring break, you know. We just keep working. So, I don't know. That was just something that we do.
I have one. Homeschoolers do not learn as much as public school students. Again, if you have a parent who is not trying, then no, you're not going to.
Or student that's not trying.
Exactly.
You know, again, this is all based on the person, okay? Like, truly and honestly. Like, you get people that don't learn as much in homeschooling, and you also get people that don't learn as much in public schooling, and it's usually based on, well, how much they want to learn about that thing, you know?
Exactly. And honestly, it's not even about how much they want to. It's if they're willing to just at least put in the effort and try.
Yeah.
And I worked in a public school for 1 year as basically like a teacher's assistant. And I saw kids in there. I was like, I just kept thinking, dude, if you were homeschooled, like, I feel like you'd have such a better chance. You'd have a much better chance of succeeding and like kids who might seem like they're in lower groups or like they struggle with learning or they're behind on things. I would always just think if you were homeschooled, then you would probably be at least on average. You'd be like on par with everyone else at least.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard to devote enough time and attention to kids in a classroom where you've got 20, 25 students, and especially the younger ages too, because they're just kids with energy and they just want to get up and run around and go nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, think about being like 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, forced to sit in a chair and do work on paper for like 8 hours a day.
Daggum.
And at least at the school I worked at that time, which has been a few years ago now, they only had recess for 30 minutes 2 days out of the week. Like, it was scheduled in 2 times out of 5 days for 30 minutes they could go outside and play. And that's if the weather allowed them to. Like, no wonder kids are bouncing off the walls and not learning nothing. No wonder the teachers are struggling.
If you leave your bird in a cage for days and days and days and days, it's gonna go crazy. Okay.
I mean, think
Now,
about
they're
when
not
people have
birds,
big dogs.
Yeah.
And,
Same
like,
thing.
you just lock them up while
That's
they long their dogs
that's
going
a good
nuts. And people are
point.
like, what's wrong with my dog?
Yes.
And I'm like,
I love how we're referring to
outside.
I love how we're referring to children as animals.
Well,
but
that's
still,
not...
but it's
the
a good
point
metaphor.
still
Okay.
stands.
Oh my word. Oh my gosh. I just
Ridiculous
that's
Homeschoolers don't learn as much as public school students. We honestly learn more. Like, I can I can specifically remember a field trip we went to, I forget his name, the home of one of the presidents, Andrew Jackson. We went to Andrew Jackson's home, which is not too far from where we live. And the tour guide was like, okay, like, do you know, like, you know, they have like the typical list of questions. Oh, do you know this? And do you know that, as they go on their tour? Well, do you know this thing? And they asked a question, and I just raised my hand and I answered it. And that happened several times with multiple different kids throughout our little homeschool field trip there. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I was just looking into things too much. But as a younger child at that time, probably around, I don't know, 12, 13-ish maybe, you know, old enough to where you really notice how people are reacting and stuff. I thought he started to look a little bit frustrated maybe, or annoyed. I don't know.
He's like, how dare you come into my work and make me feel
How dare you actually know the
so
answers to
low.
these questions and keep interrupting
How
me
are
with
you
all this
smart?
information.
Yeah.
So maybe that was just me. Maybe I was just making things up.
He's probably
but
used to like children.
that's
like
what it
me
felt
that didn't
like. And I
have-
felt very proud of myself for being like, haha, I can answer your questions.
He's like, haha. My word. Yeah, he's probably used to like children like me and don't know anything really about history.
No,
compared to
not
you,
like you.
compared
Not
to
like you,
compared
gosh.
to you.
No,
You
you
just
know
know a
stuff
lot
too.
more of the history than I do.
Technical stuff, maybe.
Yeah. One that I have is only religious people homeschool.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
I
mean,
know.
that's probably a big reason for a lot of people at first.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, it really, homeschooling's not for everyone.
No.
Like, that's just facts, you know what I mean? Like, it might not work great for you, you might not be good at it, you know? It just depends. Whether you're religious or not, you know, I don't really know how to
I mean, I don't think that really
speak on that.
that doesn't factor into exactly to
That's just
how much effort you put into it, I think. I mean,
It's just
at first, homeschooling was very stigmatized. Once public schooling really became a thing and became like federally funded and required, then homeschooling became very stigmatized and like, oh, that's like how could you treat your children like that, you know? And really looked down on, and parents were like going to court over and stuff for a long time because people were almost saw it as like child abuse. So at first it was religious, I think, very heavily religiously influenced because parents didn't like what their children were being taught in school. They didn't think it lined up with their religious values, and so they decided to take it into their own hands, which is perfectly fine, honestly. But as time's gone on, homeschooling has become more accepted and more popular and seen as a more valid form of education. Not that it ever was less than that. And then people have taken their kids out of school because they have special needs or whatever, and they just need a more attentive education. They need someone who can pay attention to them constantly and, you know, factor in whatever issue they have. They can factor that into the education and learn with them that way. Or because of bullying, or because of any number of issues that can happen at schools. So, I mean, honestly, these days, if you want to homeschool, just homeschool. Like, it's no big deal. Just make sure you look up your local and state regulations and stuff, so you don't accidentally get thrown in jail for it.
Yeah, because they wouldn't want that. Did you say one last, or was it me? I can't remember.
I think you brought it up. But this one. Homeschooled kids cannot play sports or participate in extracurricular activities.
Dude, I've been playing sport every year since
I know
the
you
age
have
10 or something. I don't know. Not well. There was. I started playing sports when I was like 7, and then, or I think it was 7. I don't know. But then I went a few years and then I stopped, just because I wanted to stop, And then I just recently, a few years ago, I started back. But that's just straight up no. Like, that's a no.
Yeah.
It's not. A lot of public schools. I don't know how it is on other public schools.
Well,
but the public schools in my town, if you're homeschooled, or if your school, say there's a school, you go to a public school, right, and they don't have baseball there. Well, if there's another school that has baseball, and you don't go to that school, you can play on that team.
Yeah, I think it's just like you fill out a form or something.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
anyway.
that used to not be true, because I vaguely remember when that was actually being talked about in the Tennessee State Legislature, where where it finally got put through, where homeschoolers can, depending on how the county that the school they're wanting to play sports with, depending on how that county goes about it and stuff, but homeschoolers are allowed to do that. Like, the schools have to let them participate if, they follow the right requirements.
Yeah.
And all that. So, yeah, I mean, that used to be a problem. But, and also, like, you took music lessons for several years from
many years.
Yeah, from different people, honestly. And you never know what you can find.
And that's another great thing. She brought up music lessons. I can have a music lesson whenever I want. Like, I don't have to, you know what I mean? Well, technically, I guess you could say, because all the bunch of kids that come after 3, I'll be like, I can come anytime from 8 to 3, if you're full on the, evening. So that's another great thing. And that kind of brings us up with the one that I have. Homeschooling is restrictive.
Actually, homeschooling
is very free, like freedom. Like,
yeah, very freeing.
Freeing.
I mean, think about it. Like we said earlier, where kids are stuck inside in a little room.
Yeah.
For like 8 hours.
There's in the summer, I just go outside and do my school. Like that's a little thing, but like you said a second ago, they had recess twice a week for 30 minutes. Like, heck, I could just go outside however long I wanted.
Exactly.
Unless I needed a computer or something, but even then I could just bring my laptop, but you know what I mean? So, another pretty ridiculous statement, which I feel like is kind of, I don't know what the word is, because there's some of these that've been like, they're too loose, they do this, blah, 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 they bend the rules, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And this one's like, they're restrictive, they're, uptight. But,
well, it seems like people can't make up their minds about homeschooling. Either it's super restrictive and anti-world and just, they never let their children see the light of day, and they dress like the Amish and they live like the Amish, or they just have no rules at all and they let their kids do whatever and they never teach them anything, and their kids are going to grow up to be idiots who don't know how to function in society. It's like one or the other. And honestly, I mean, I'm not saying people cannot get like that, because I'm sure there are plenty of times where people have met somebody who was like that, one or the other extreme. And I know that there have been instances where, people have used the homeschooling excuse as an excuse to just get away with whatever. But I mean, honestly, the majority of people, the vast majority, it's just like, yeah, we just do things a little differently. That's all. I mean, we can make it do whatever we want.
one is also homeschooled teens miss out on the high school experience.
Knowing what I know of high schools today, I am so glad I missed out on the high school experience.
The high school experience, quote unquote.
Like, what does that even mean, high school experience? What do they mean by that? Do they mean
'cause
prom?
there's prom, if that's what you mean. But then there's also, like, I don't know, the little groups that you have. I don't know. What
Friends?
the friends.
We have those too.
Just like...
Your little squads. Guess what? Phoebe has her squad, okay? She has her own squad of people that she knows and she goes and hangs out with and schedules lunch dates with and all that jazz. So, I mean, it's not that.
And I've been to prom. Savannah's been to prom too, you know. It's not just public schoolers that have proms. Homeschoolers put on proms. Not all homeschoolers, obviously, but, you know, there's homeschool groups that we have. And
Exactly, like co-ops and stuff.
yeah, exactly.
And that's another thing is that all of this, all it takes sometimes is a little bit of research, just looking around you and figuring out, okay, how exactly do I want to do this? And you will find a wide variety of things that can make it work for you. Okay, you're making faces at me. What did you see?
This one is so good. And
Oh, gosh.
like, just throw all of the other ones away. This one's
no.
the best.
Oh, no. Tell me.
Homeschooled children don't learn as quickly or as well. That is so
You know what's funny?
wrong.
Yours says that they don't learn as quickly or as well.
Do you have one that says it?
I have one that says homeschoolers are all gifted or naturally intelligent. So again, the two sides of the spectrum here.
It's this is like
Either we're all idiots or we're all geniuses. Like, it's one or the other.
it's one or the other, one extreme to the other. Quickly, I don't know. It again. This and just that just depends on the student
And the subject.
as well. And they can change. Like, if a curriculum doesn't work,
Change it.
you can straight up change it.
Literally.
You know, like, just boom. Like, any curriculum you want to use, you can use it.
Exactly. Our mom has
You know?
literally changed curriculums in the middle of the school year.
That's what I'm saying.
She's like, okay,
But
we'll
it
just
still
finish out
works.
the semester or whatever, and then
And you
you know we'll find something else and we'll try something else, whatever.
Where, yeah. Like, I have changed maths, like, probably 3 times. No? Actually, no. I only changed once. Seems like more. But it wasn't working. One wasn't working. I tried it for a few years, and it didn't work. So then the next year, I just went to something different. Changed my life. When I say it changed my life, it was the best thing ever.
Exactly.
And I learned so much better with that curriculum. Savannah, she loved that curriculum that I didn't like.
Well, that's
But
the thing.
and she hated the one that I started, and I learned so much more. See, it just
Did
depends.
you start using the one that
It
I
just-
switched off of when I
Yes.
was a younger kid?
I
You
even
started using that one.
I even asked her. I was like, "Would you recommend such and such? You know, this curriculum?" And she was just like, "No, I didn't like it." So I started it.
That's just
and I
rude.
loved it. And I was just like, well, it worked out, you know? So that just, it can be, I don't know, altered to your needs, you know?
That is the
It's
whole
very- yeah, it's
entire
flex- it's
point
like-
of homeschooling.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
It is just it's an umbrella term
Yeah.
used to include however you decide to teach your child at home.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is.
Yes. I was trying not to laugh. Okay. Anyway, what was I saying? I forgot.
No, pick another one.
He's going to bed.
I don't know.
He's going his baby bed. All right. I totally lost my train of thought. Our dad just walked in. Anyway.
Okay, or how about this one? Homeschooling is not an accepted form of education. Actually, it very much is. It used to be looked down on and stuff. That's fine. These days, I mean, people will love homeschoolers for all kinds of reasons because these days we have a lot of information and a lot of data that backs up this idea that homeschoolers actually generally, on average, succeed well above the public school average. So if you think like, oh, my kid's not going to get into college, or, oh, how are they going to do anything? Or, oh, people are going to look down on them. Not if you don't let them. Just like, you know,
Yeah.
if you're a parent, do your job, do some research, listen to your kid. You know,
Yeah.
if your kid's saying, gosh, I just feel like I'm not learning anything, be like, okay, maybe they're actually not
Yeah.
learning anything with
Because-
this. Switch it up.
Some kids learn differently. Some kids, like my brother, he learns more hands-on, like go outside, get a leaf, look at the leaves, look how the different colors, blah, 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 hands-on stuff. But, like, some people like a honking huge textbook. I don't know who would, but some people do, and they learn better from it. No judgment here. But the point is, people learn differently, and so that's another thing to consider. And that's something that you can tailor their homeschooling curriculums or experience to.
Exactly.
So, like, you can pick something that has more science experiments, or, your PE. You could make it look, more PE. I don't know what that meant. We'll just cut that off.
PE at our house
PE is very active.
Go outside, run around, and ride a bike, and
Yes.
go tromping through the woods. That's PE.
That made no sense. So there's that.
Well, it basically...
But you get my point.
Yeah, basically. I mean, what I'm saying on the not accepted form of education, depending on what you look at, it says the number of children homeschooling is estimated to be between 1.8 million and 2.5 million, and that was when this article was published, which could have been a few years ago. Like, recently, these days, it could be upwards of like 3 million or more.
Dang.
Yeah. So, and it says that some of the fastest growth in homeschooling has been with minority families, because honestly, when you look at schools these days, they don't look great. And I know that a lot of people feel like they can't homeschool. Like, oh, well, maybe you're a single parent, or maybe you both have to work to make ends meet or something like that. It's not impossible to do. If you have friends or, a grandparent that can help with that, try that. If, I don't know, I mean, there's just at least look into it. At least look into it. Consider it, look at all the options, because you never know what could be hiding behind a corner that you just haven't thought to look behind before.
Yeah.
So at least give it a shot and look into it and pray about it. Gosh, pray about it. Because the
Yes.
reason why my mom started homeschooling us, our mom started homeschooling us, was because she felt like the Lord was telling her, hey, you need to pull your kids out of school and you quit your job. She was an RN at the time. And you need to stay at home with the kids, raise them, and homeschool them. And she was like, gosh, I don't know about this, because at the time they used her job to pay all the monthly bills, because she got paid more frequently than my dad. And then one morning my dad, and she didn't talk about it with anybody. She was just like, gosh, I don't know. So my dad wakes up one morning and just tells her, I think you should quit your job and stay at home with the kids. And so she was like,
That's it.
Sounds good to me. That's confirmation. Thank you, Lord.
There we go.
So, pray about it, think about it, look into it, talk with people about it.
Try it out. Like, who said, do one
semester or
Exactly. You could just do half a school year's
Yeah.
worth. And if it's really not working for you or your kids, then, and when I say not working for your kids, I mean, if you're actually trying, you're doing your best.
Yeah.
Trying to fix little issues that come up as they do, and then if it's still not really working for you, then fine, put your kids back in a public school or a private school or wherever they were. That's perfectly fine. Like, I'm not going to judge anybody who feels like homeschooling is just not for them.
Yeah.
Especially if they've really looked into it, maybe even tried it a little, and they're just like, it just didn't really work for us. And I'm like, okay, cool, good for you, man,
Because
whatever.
I mean, I have plenty of friends that are public schooled, but I also have a lot of friends that are homeschooled, and it works for each case, You just have to do what works for you, okay?
Yeah.
Period. All right?
Exactly.
It's like this. Say I am starting piano. I want to learn piano, which I already know how to learn piano, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
This is a metaphor.
Yeah.
I want to learn piano, right? And so I go to a teacher. And this teacher is it's not working for me, man. He's not doing it, I'm just not learning a lot from him. The way he does it, I don't know, I just can't do it. It's not a huge problem to say, sorry, dude, I'm going to stop, and you move to a different teacher. Same thing.
Exactly.
Okay? If homeschooling, you do homeschooling, like, I want to get an education. You go to homeschooling. And you're homeschooling for a while and you're like, I don't know, this isn't working. Guess what? Boop. Go to public school or private school or wherever.
Or a co-op.
You know what I mean? Yes. So it's just common sense, okay? If something's not working, try something else because it ain't working. Public school, if you're going to public school and it's not working or you're having a terrible experience, try homeschooling.
Or if you're worried for your kid's soul and humanity these days, try homeschooling.
That too. That's something else to consider. Then just, private. There's many options, right? You don't have to feel like you're all cased into one option because there's many options, to be honest. So, yeah, there's that.
And one that's not on my list, but that a lot of people tend to bring up is homeschooling is expensive, or it's going to be so expensive, or I can't afford it. That is absolutely not true, okay? The average amount that people spend on homeschooling, and this is average, so it's adding all the things together and then dividing them out. The average is $600 per student.
Dang.
I think per student for homeschooling. I know some parents who could get away with $600 for their whole entire family, and they have like 5 or 6 kids. And I'm not sure about the average for public schoolers, how much it costs for public schoolers, but it was getting upwards of like thousands upon thousands of dollars per student. And so I'm thinking, if you think homeschooling is expensive, public schooling is expensive. But if you think homeschooling is expensive, then you're only looking at buying brand new materials for every single child and trying to set it up a certain way. And you feel like you have to take all these boxes and you have to have all this stuff. And you have to have all these things. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. It does not have to be that hard. Like, you'll probably want to buy some things new, like workbooks that the kids write in. I can understand buying those brand new. Each kid's going to be writing in them. But a lot of the reading books, the textbooks, everything like that, you can buy those online, used. You can go to curriculum fairs and book fairs. There's all kinds of them all over the place that my mom's gone to over the years, and that's for where we live, within like 2 hours of where we live. There's been tons of them within 2 hours of where we live, and we live in a little old hick town that ain't got hardly nothing.
You'll blink twice and it's gone.
Exactly. You can drive through it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can drive through the whole town.
Yeah.
So just, again, look it up, research, talk to friends. Honestly, a lot of these homeschool parents, if you find like a Facebook group and just be like, look, guys, I have no clue what I'm doing. Please help me out. Where do I start with this? You're going to be inundated with information. You're going to be swimming in it because they're going to be like, oh, yeah, totally. Here's where I go for this stuff. Here's where I go for that stuff. Here's where I go for this kind of curriculum. And you'll find people who are more classical, more like they do Latin and Greek in their school. And they do all this fancy stuff. And then you'll find parents who are like, oh, well, my kid wanted to learn about butterflies. So then we did math of like, what's 2 butterflies plus 3 butterflies? And that was our math, okay? Because they love butterflies. So you're going to find all kinds of different people talking to you and offering you advice. And
our mom started off at my mom started off homeschooling us, which I was like super young at this time.
Like a public schooler.
Straight up made a classroom in our house.
We had
little desks and everything. And we have a whiteboard still, and it's not used as this is used to. She's grown. She's grown since then.
She's changed. She's matured in her homeschooling self.
But and so people learn differently. Like some people may still do that, They may still have it like a little classroom set up, But it's all your siblings, and they're all little.
You're all in different grades.
How did that work? Because they're in different grades.
Well, just like the old schools used to, the one-room schoolhouses.
That's true. But anyway, so there's this one to kind of lighten up the mood. Homeschool. I don't even know why this is on here, and I was like dead when I saw it.
Oh gosh.
Homeschoolers dress. I can't even say it. This is so funny. Homeschoolers dress head to toe in denim.
Where do they even get that? What are you reading? Head to toe in denim. The most denim I wear is blue jeans.
For whatever reason, there is a common image of homeschoolers dressed head to toe in denim. Denim jackets, ankle length, denim skirts, overalls.
Oh, that's okay. That's come from where they...
Overalls, jumpers. You get the picture. Wherever for most homeschoolers, this is a total myth.
Absolutely.
Though some co-ops require their students to wear a conservative uniform of collared shirts and long pants or a skirt. I just like choked on my own spit. Anyway.
They didn't need to know that.
Anyway, in case you sound like I died, well, I did. Denim is more required or desired than it is for any other kid. On other days that I can't speak. I can't see that. Okay, wait. We're zooming it in. On days that students work from school, they're likely to dress like any other child.
I mean, honestly, when it comes to the uniform thing, some co-ops require students to dress more conservative, like a private school, like those fancy institutions for the gifted kids in the big cities and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I don't understand. Like,
I had never heard that one before.
But honestly, I think most co-ops, unless you're in a co-op in a big city and it's like one of those co-ops that has like a legitimate setup and real serious stuff going on, to the point where it's almost a private school. Like, I've never heard of co-ops really requiring, like, I mean, the parents might be like, hey, don't let your child walk in looking like they're in their underwear or something. Yeah. But I mean, like, just be like, hey, have your child dressed decently. I mean, I don't understand how that's a problem.
I know. Straight up, usually days, I'm not even in denim at all. Like, some days I'll just be in my pajamas still. Like, you think that was, if those of you have heard rumors of homeschoolers in their pajamas, it's 100% true with me, okay? Just going to be honest. There you go. There's your confirmation.
Exactly.
That leads us into our next one that I have. Gosh. This is a good one. Homeschoolers are weird. I am. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you assumed that because it's true. No.
Depends on your weird. Depends on what you mean by weird.
Weird. I think what they're meaning on this, this actually says right below it. It says, be honest. Aren't all kids a little weird?
Exactly.
Yes, I am.
Honestly, I'd think that homeschool kids are more of the good weird than like the actually odd weird because they're just more well-rounded people in general. I think.
Will see what they're trying to say because some homeschoolers you'll see that are just like
they're just different. They're different.
They're different.
And you know what? That's what the parents are choosing to do themselves and with their kids. And I'm like,
I don't know why.
I disagree, but whatever, man.
It's like,
it ain't my business.
When someone says homeschoolers, they're most people think of like, I don't know, quote unquote weird kids, you know, or weird, or like
geeky, nerdy glasses, carrying around textbooks, like little boys with the khaki pants up to their waist wearing belts and collared polos.
Boys
and I'm like,
in overalls.
Oh my gosh, it's one or the
like
other.
They said. No, but I was going to say something and I totally forgot my train of thought. Like, it just lost it. Oh, I was going to say, there is a boatload. I say boatload, but I didn't want to say it. So, I did now. So, there are so many weird people out in the world, okay? Exactly. Not just in Homeschooled, okay?
Exactly.
There are weird people in Homeschooled? Yes, there are. But there's also
just a lot of weird people in general.
A boatload ton of weird people in public school or private school.
Exactly.
You know, it's just so, I don't know. And I don't know why people kind of throw that into the title of, or the description of Homeschooled, like you're a weird child. Like, how come that's
I'm sorry.
not in public school?
Like, am I weird because I don't conform to how you think children should act because that's all you've seen is public school children the way they act? Like, I'm sorry that I'm a well-rounded and a fairly well-adjusted child. Like, is that weird to you?
I apologize. All right.
If that's weird to you, then we've got other problems to be talking about than me being homeschooled.
Oh my.
Here's one. Parents are not qualified to teach. And this is like a big fear of people like, oh, well, how are the kids ever going to learn and keep up with everyone else? How are they going to keep up with their peers in public school? Well, from what I hear of public school these days, they're going to keep up just fine. Yeah. Okay, it's not going to be that much of a struggle these days. Especially since they're getting rid of any requirements at all in some places. Yeah. Like, oh, you don't even have to have a grade. You're not even allowed to have like a benchmark grade or anything saying that, oh, you passed this grade, you get to pass like this class or whatever. Yeah. Like, that's not learning. That is not learning.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the thing, because at one point the state of Tennessee had a law requiring that at least one parent had to have a bachelor's degree in order for that family to be allowed to homeschool their children. And thankfully that was overturned. At the time when my mom started homeschooling us, it was actually still in place. But she, of course, was a nurse who had graduated with her bachelor's degree and done all that she needed to do for that. So at the time, it wasn't a problem for us. But it could be a problem for a lot of people, especially if it's like working class families where both parents might not have a bachelor's degree just because they just don't choose to, or maybe one of the parents has like a 2-year degree in a vocational or technical school. So this idea that parents aren't qualified to teach their kids is just so stupid. All you have to do is have, like we said before, you have to put in effort. You have to try. If you want to help your kid learn, I promise you, you will find a way and your kid will learn.
Yeah.
They will learn something. It might not be everything that you think they need to learn, or that and just because the school system says they need to learn it, doesn't mean they need to learn it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they don't memorize every single little thing to pass a test, guess what? That's okay. They might have actually learned something that pushes them in a direction where later on in their life they find out, oh, well, that was the turning point, and I found what job I wanted to go work for.
I mean, especially if the kids is like second grade, and it's, I mean, if they're like a senior in high school, I get that. Like, you want them to pass the test good, and you don't want them, you know what I mean? Especially, or if they're in college. This is different, but still,
college isn't homeschooling.
It's not homeschooling, but still same concept, sort of.
Exactly.
Not really. Never mind. All right. That was totally off. Like, that was not even. But you get what I'm trying to say. If you're a senior, but if you're second grade, it's just different because it's. How many apples did Susie have? She had 5. You know what I mean? It's not going to be life changing if they don't get it wrong. Right. I'm sorry. Wrong. Whatever. Gosh, I'm losing my words already.
People put too much pressure on themselves to match the world's standard. And I'm thinking, you don't need to worry about that so much. Like, I get, in some places, like at first our mother had us enrolled through the county. Our mother had us enrolled through the county, through the county school system, which they had an option for homeschooling. And so they had a list of requirements, and like you had to, put what subjects you were teaching and how many hours and stuff, because, you have to have like 180 days or whatever, of school. You have to have at least like that minimum or something. And so there were certain requirements with that. And so she had to meet those. She transferred over to an umbrella school whenever I started going into high school. I and my other sisters, some of us who got into high school age, she transferred over to an umbrella school. That's what they're called, right? Umbrella schools.
No idea.
I forget what it's called. There's basically 3 or 4, I think, big organizations that will it's sort of like a sponsor, I guess, of sorts, where they keep track of all of your information, of how many days your kids worked, of what subjects they're doing, of the curriculum that you might choose or whatever like that. Like, that's their sort of thing.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing. And the one my mom used was Home Life Academy. And so she did that just because it was going to be so much trouble through the county to keep track of the high school stuff. So it was just easier for her in general. And we graduated through high school. I mean, we graduated high school. We got all the official certification and stuff. Like, you don't have to worry about not being certified. If you go through the right channels and stuff, it's just fine. Like, your kid's going to be fine getting into college and stuff. They'll be fine.
Yeah. And I love how through this whole episode, I've been struggling to read these articles. That's just because they're really small writing, and so I'm like zooming in. But anyway,
and honestly, I like this little paragraph that I have on this article that was under the parents are not qualified to teach. We do not often think about it, but the knowledge we pass on to our children from the day they are born throughout their life is substantial and significant. It goes well beyond the ability to read, write, understand numbers, or appreciate art and culture. In fact, we teach our children an infinite number of things, including manners, empathy, how to walk, how to get dressed, how to reason, how to learn, and more. So, I mean, honestly, that is what it is. And I think a very important thing of homeschooling that you don't need to forget if you're going to try and homeschool your kids is it's more about encouraging their love of learning than it is just about ticking off the right boxes or making sure they get the facts memorized. Because if you, I've always said this to my mom, especially as I've gotten older and watching our younger siblings go through their school lives, is that as long as you help your child basically learn how to read and understand reading and reading comprehension, if you can help your child with that and like basic math skills, I mean, they can learn anything throughout their entire lives.
Yeah.
Because they can pick up a book and read about it, comprehend it, try it out on their own. They could learn complex math equations if they wanted to later on in life. If they didn't get it in high school, maybe they'll get it when they're 24 or 30 or whatever. Maybe they'll decide on a different life track.
Yeah.
It's just all about the love of learning and not squashing that and not crushing that and not overwhelming that and making them hate it with too much work. Or if they're confused, actually slowing down and being like, okay, what is not working here? Let's figure it out and bring back that joy and that love of learning.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was good. That's all I have.
I think this has been a pretty good little deal right now so far.
Little chit chat.
So yeah, that was just us sort of going on and ranting, sometimes
Rambling.
nonsensically, sometimes very sensibly.
This is
about myths of homeschooling.
Exactly. Yeah, this podcast is going to be kind of just a little bit of everything. Like, this could be one of many homeschooling episodes, but this could be very much, I mean, it could be the last.
First,
Who
last,
knows?
and only.
Yes.
Honestly, this is probably going to be a podcast where it's literally you never know what you're going to get.
You never know.
Sometimes it
honestly
could
never
be just long rambling, going from one subject to another, following a bunch of rabbit trails. Other times it could be it can be much more structured and actually have a very specific point to it.
Yeah.
You never know. Sometimes the episodes might be short. Sometimes they'll be long. We don't really
never
know.
so.
We're just flying by the seat of our pants here.
Yeah,
So
honestly, we're going to post every week, so be sure to keep an eye on that. And, yeah.
what's that little thing that people say at the end of every podcast? Like and subscribe. You can find us wherever you can find your podcasts.
Well, there you go, folks.
Leave us a rating on Apple iTunes.
Yeah. Everywhere you can find a podcast, you can listen.
Like us, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a 5-star review. Even if we don't deserve it, leave a 5-star review, please.
We're good.
Help us with the algorithms.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us. And I guess we'll see you next week
On Girl Please
on Girl Please
with Savannah and
and
Phoebes.
Phoebes. Bye, guys.
Bye.